The Democratic leader and I worked into the evening alongside the Speaker of the House and the House Republican leader. We made major headway toward hammering out a targeted pandemic relief package that would be able to pass both chambers with bipartisan majorities.
Congressional leaders appear to be very close to a new deal for COVID relief. The $900 billion package includes a new round of stimulus checks and unemployment benefits. And while there will not be direct aid for state and local governments, we are told there will be, quote, other avenues to deliver aid to states. The deal was based on a proposal crafted by a bipartisan group of senators. Joining me now is Virginia Democratic Senator Mark Warner. He was a member of that bipartisan group behind the COVID relief effort. He's also the vice chairman of the Intelligence Committee. Senator Warner, I was almost calling you Mr. Warner. Let's talk about what's in this deal. The direct stimulus, can you put a number on that?
Well, first of all, let's look at the overall deal. It's about $900 billion. So while this is targeted in an interim deal, literally its size, this will be the second largest piece of federal legislation in our history. The CARES bill was the biggest. This is second biggest. This is larger than even what happened after the 2008 financial crisis. It provides food assistance. It provides rental assistance. It provides unemployment. It provides broadband. It provides help for child care centers. I think we have targeted those areas most in need. I don't have the exact number yet on the direct stimulus. I would have preferred having money go straight to state and local governments, and I do fear that some of the direct stimulus payments was actually taken out of some of the expanded unemployment benefits. So I frankly felt getting money to people that were unemployed was a higher priority than giving a check to somebody who maybe makes a couple $150,000 a year and has seen no economic loss. That doesn't seem very progressive to me, but there were voices on the far left and far right that said these checks are more important than some of these other priorities. So there will be checks. I believe it's $600 per individual. And again, that would be roughly in the $140 billion range in terms of total cost.
Did I hear you correctly? That money is being taken out of, or maybe taken out of, how much money goes to unemployment benefits?
Yeah, we had in our unemployment, the bipartisan plan, 16 weeks of both increased unemployment for people who were expiring from their unemployment the day after Christmas. It included the 16 weeks for the gig workers, independent contractors, and it included a full 16 weeks of a $300 a week plus up. We thought that was very important to get to those people most in need. I think because the president and even some folks that call themselves progressives wanted stimulus checks more important than that assistance. You had to take it out of some pot, and I'm afraid that the relief for the unemployed may be a shorter period of time. But again, none of these are perfect deals. I wish my Republican colleagues would have been willing to simply plus up the $900 billion that is in this aid. But I'm very proud of the bipartisan work that was done, because let's face it, 3 weeks ago, we were nowhere. 3 weeks ago, Congress was about to leave town as the ultimate Grinches before Christmas, as people would have lost their unemployment right after Christmas. They would have been kicked out of their apartments on January 2nd. We saw those lines at the food banks. They would have simply gotten worse. And I'm grateful that we're finally acting.
You would have looked pretty out of touch and callous well, if you don't act still, it hasn't happened
yet. We would have looked like stupidity on steroids was my line. But I'm glad that, frankly, it took this bipartisan group to break the gridlock. It is not a perfect bill, but at $900 billion, this is a lot of aid for people in need.
I hear your frustration on taking that money out of unemployment benefits. What about state and local funding? Because some of these municipalities, if they don't get any money, they're going to be laying people off. People will be out of work without funding.
Listen, I was a former governor. I know how important this assistance is. Matter of fact, 1.5 million state and local government employees have already been laid off. We had $160 billion in for state and local government. And I wish we would have had another day or two, because I do think there was some appropriate liability protection that should have been put in place for responsible businesses. But the idea that we would bar people from even having a day in court if they'd been harmed by irresponsible action was just a bridge too far.
So a lot of you, most of you are working on this COVID relief package, but then you have your colleague, Senator Ron Johnson, holding a hearing in the Homeland Security Committee on election integrity. What's going on over there?
Well, there's obviously still some of my colleagues, both in the House and the Senate, who refuse to accept the reality that Joe Biden won the election. I actually think it showed the strength of American democracy. People turned out in record numbers. And I know one of the hearing witnesses was Chris Krebs. Chris Krebs ran CISA, which is the organization that protects our election machinery. Even though he was a Trump appointee, of course, he was fired by Donald Trump, but as a Trump appointee, I think he provided the most safe, protected election in American history. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that the vast majority of both Trump and Biden supporters participated without violence. I'm proud that the recount system worked. There's obviously a sore loser caucus that I think will keep.
You're calling it sore loser. Hold on. That is, I think, it's underestimating the damage that's being done. Senator Josh Hawley was on another network this morning saying he wasn't ready to say that Joe Biden was the president-elect. He wasn't ready, as if there is evidence out there that something happened during the election. There is no evidence. There is no evidence. It hasn't been brought up in court anywhere. The Supreme Court didn't take the case. Other courts have thrown out the case. There's no evidence that has come to support the president's claims. And yet you have senators and you have a number of House Republicans backing the president. Isn't this a lot worse than just being a sore loser?
Listen, I 100% agree with you. There is no evidence. I'm the vice chair of the Intelligence Committee. 30 days out, we were afraid of foreign interference. We were afraid there might be violence on Election Day. We were afraid Americans, because of fear of COVID, might not vote. None of that happened. Violence didn't take place. Americans turned out in record numbers for both Trump and Biden. We stopped the foreign interference. The election was safe. The machinery worked in terms of recounts. Our judicial system stood tall. Again, I'm trying to be generous to some of the folks I work with, but I think increasingly they're looking pretty foolish in the eyes of most Americans. You know,
I worry that generosity is not getting us to a good place where we're all not, where we're all accepting just basic facts. Senator Mark Warner.
There is, but again, let's just remember, thousands of election officials, Democrats and Republicans, stood up and did their jobs.
Yeah.
Judges were appointed by Republican presidents stood up and did their jobs. There are a few outliers out there, but I think this was evidence of strength of American democracy.
It's not a disagreement on policy, where you just say, I think we disagree here. It's a disagreement on reality. Senator Mark Warner, hear your frustration about this bill. I'm glad, though, that you are working towards something. There are millions of Americans out there who are in desperate need of it. Senator Mark Warner, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. And happy holidays to you. And
Thank
still
you so
ahead, President Trump lashes out at Mitch McConnell for acknowledging Joe Biden's win. How can Republicans move forward when the president will not? First up, though, a major winter storm threatens to interrupt the rollout of the coronavirus vaccine and potentially vaccines. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.